All right, so welcome to part two of this little mini series, Epstein Expert. That's me reviewing the recent drop that we got from Congress. As of recording, it was yesterday, December 19th, for future reference. I have a list now. Part one was like a general overview, first look. Now I actually have a list of some very interesting things that I have found in my own research over the last 4 or 5 months that I've been researching the Epstein story. These are kind of like, I guess you would say, fringe or more conspiracy based things that we can see if we can pull some stuff out of this little Epstein library they've set up for us and start tying some dots together. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at in this video is a company called Carbine. Carbine is a Israeli startup. They work with 911 operators and dispatch so that they can more quickly and effectively get information disseminated to police and fire and even tertiary people who help in these instances like hospitals and shelters. And the reason that I'm looking so heavily at Carbine right now, and the reason I'm going to be searching some stuff that's also adjacent to this, is that I believe Epstein invested in this company, first of all. Epstein invested in this company, but he didn't do it directly. He transferred money to a shell corporation, and then he had that money transferred, I believe, to another shell corporation that Ehud Barak was actually part of an owner of. And he had Ehud Barak basically go to this company with the $1 million that Epstein wanted to invest. And through Ehud Barak, they got invested in this company, to which Ehud Barak is actually now the chairman of. But I think they set up an office in New York. Even though it was a startup in Israel, they had set up an office in New York that was just 2 miles away from Epstein's townhouse. And I think they were giving him help because they worked with technology systems, like advanced technology systems that work with cameras, microphones, all kinds of stuff. And what they did with that information is they would encrypt it and they would disseminate it to 911 dispatch and whatnot, and officers and fire departments. And I think Epstein was using that technology. I think he invested in that company so that he could have people come out, help him set up a blackmail version, a blackmail harvesting network that would take a bunch of different devices in the home, which if you look at the FBI seizure list for his New York townhouse, which is 2 miles away from the office, you see that that's basically what he had. He had a lot of different components of Carbine's systems, not necessarily the same exact stuff, but stuff that served the same function. All throughout that house, it was an absolute blackmail nightmare, a honey trap, blackmail harvesting machine. And anyways, that's what we're going to look into first. We're going to see if we can pull up anything related to all that. So I'm just going to start first by typing in Carbine. I expect to see something, but we'll see. We'll see. No results found. Okay, so that's interesting. Let's go with some of the devices that were on that property. We have something called an LTO6 tape, which is, okay, so we have something here. This was from US v. Maxwell, which was Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal case. Okay, this is the list I'm talking about. Why don't we just go through this real quick, and I can show you what I mean. So there's some important stuff here. So here's the thing that I looked up, right? That is, these are tape cartridges that can hold terabytes of data. Why you would need that, right? That's the kind of the question that we want to keep in our mind. Why do you need this or that? If you're just kind of a tax consultant or a hedge fund manager living in a nice New York townhouse. No, this is absolutely a blackmail operation. Let's come down here. We see many computers, right? Lenovo, Mac, HP, all kinds of stuff. We see just tons of hard storage, right? Gigabytes upon gigabytes. Here we have an HP server, could be used for dissemination. It has 4 500 gigabyte drives. That's 2 terabytes. What do you need with that if you're just running like some kind of normal tax consulting business? Various other computers, desktops. We have a lot of laptops too. like Toshiba laptops. My personal take on this is that Epstein was basically just powering on all these devices in his townhouse and would just set them to record. So that at anywhere, at any point, people walking around, people within the townhouse would be caught on camera and would have audio being recorded as well. Let's just take a look at some of this other stuff here. More Mac desktops. I mean, the amount of computers, right? I think the amount of computers that this guy had in his house is absolutely ridiculous. It's tons of computers. We have extra hard drives, like 2 black hard drives here that they found. iPads, there's like 3 iPads. Here's interesting, right? Black Radio Shack recorder, silver Olympus recorder, Sony BM560 recorder. Why do you need this many recorders? Here's a bunch of fucking more, stuff to put blackmail material on. One cruiser guide, 32 gigabyte USB. He had 4 of those. Blue EM-Tech, 16 gigabyte USB. Another regular M-Tech, 16 gigabyte USB. CDs, a lot of CDs, a lot of USBs, like we see here. What the fuck is this? How many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Like 10 fucking 100 hard drives. I'm not sure if that's like 100 gigabyte or what. Just tons of storage. It just goes on and on and on. CDs. These CDs, interestingly, right? These are in binders, right? Probably like those, if you've ever seen those, almost like Pokemon cards, but it's for like CDs, holding CDs. They had binders containing CDs and 13 loose CDs. So those were CDs that were being used for something, right? They were taken out of the stack. For those of you who aren't old enough to remember, CDs used to come in like a stack, like a little tower. You get like 100 of them. These were taken out, used for something, and then put into black binders. So I wonder what distinguished those CDs from other ones. You have Polaroid photos, someone named Sue. So like server equipment, they even have these things called cloud keys. Let me look that up real quick. I'm gonna do a search for that. Yeah, so these Unify cloud keys, I looked this up at one point. I can't remember quite off the top of my head what they do, but basically what Epstein was doing was he had a method of collecting all kinds of data, processing it with all these different computers and stuff. I'm sure like laptops and some of the other computers were used for taking data discretely, and then some of the computers were the purpose was to process all that information. Obviously, somebody walks into your townhouse, you're trying to collect blackmail. Not every minute and every second is going to be useful because, you invite them over, who knows what's going to happen. But then from there, it would take all that information and it would probably disseminate it to his other properties in an encrypted fashion where it would be put onto stuff like, those LTO6 tapes, which are some pretty hardcore, from my understanding, backup drives so that you can keep stuff forever, right? So, and then all the USBs and CDs were used for things like, let's go put a USB drive somewhere with compromising information on a bunch of people, and that way we always have that information. So anyways, we'll move on here. Just wanted to look at some of that. I think also I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put in a few of those other items from the list in there just to see if they pop up anywhere else, right? Why not? So we have HP server. That was another thing we have. Excuse my bad typing. Okay, it's the same document. Why don't we hit cloud key? We'll hit that too. Oh, okay. So this is different. Unify cloud key. This device complies with Part 15 of the FCC rules. So what the fuck is going on here? Okay, so then there's the image of a cloud key, I guess, a Unify cloud key. And again, why? Why do you need shit like this? If somebody is really like techie and savvy with all that, can you tell us in the comments, like, what the fuck do you use something like this for? I've never even heard of this. The stories we get about Jeffrey Epstein being a tax consultant, being a hedge fund manager, this is telling a different story. This is not that. So that's cool that we actually get a picture of that, though. I do like that. And we have one more item here that I want to look up. It's called a Cube 9000, not 900, 9000 site server. Okay, same list. So I wanted to put that out there. Wanted to look through all that. Of course, more documentation will be released with time. This is something I can go back and review once again. If anything pops up, I'll be sure to make a video about it. Next item on the list, Liechtenstein. You ever heard of Liechtenstein? I hadn't either until I was looking into the Epstein story. It's a very small country. I think it's between like Austria and I don't know, one of those other, maybe Germany or something. Tiny little country. It was being used as a tax haven, not a tax haven, a laundering. It was for Robert Maxwell's laundering operation. He had a lot of money that he had taken out of his some of his companies, and he was putting into, I think, his family trusts. This country came up in what I think is the most mysterious man in the whole story, Mortimer Zuckerman. It came up in his 2003 birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein, where he said an extensive review of Jeffrey Epstein found that either he or his family was from Liechtenstein, along with some other very cryptic stuff. I just thought it was very weird. So let's go ahead and punch that in here, see if anything comes up. Let me see if I can try and spell this correctly. Liechtenstein. Okay. No results found, unfortunately. And then there was one more thing. Berlina. Nothing. Okay. So, unfortunately, nothing there yet. Again, I'm going to be reviewing this list later. I'll show you if there's anything. On that same note, though, in that same vein, let's go ahead and look at Robert Maxwell as well. He's the next one on my list. Okay. Wow. He actually comes up quite a bit. So we have him. Oddly, I don't know what this is. I keep seeing stuff come up in this the U.S. Virgin Islands versus J.P. Morgan Chase Bank lawsuit, which, if you didn't know, the Virgin Islands sued J.P. Morgan Chase for their involvement in allowing Epstein to operate out of the Virgin Islands. The Virgin Islands also sued successfully Jeffrey Epstein's estate for, I think it was like $120 million. It was like millions and millions of dollars for basically using them, right? Which everyone does. It's just that Epstein got caught and this whole thing exploded, which makes them look bad. So let's just open up this first one here and just see what is Robert Maxwell? What does Robert Maxwell have to do with this lawsuit? He's been dead for a long time. I don't know why he would even be involved with this. Robert Maxwell was searched through derogatory news and sanctioned records only. Okay, but why? Search parameters were adjusted due to the high volume of records on Robert Maxwell. Whoa, okay. So, what are they searching? And why? What does Robert Maxwell have to do with the Virgin Islands case against J.P. Maxwell? He should be entirely unrelated as far as I know. I don't understand what this is. Please reference the above attached Word documents, pages 11 through 31, for publication information on Ghislaine Maxwell and Robert Maxwell. Okay, Ghislaine Maxwell, sure. Her name makes sense in this document. Robert's doesn't, though. So now I'm wondering, was Robert doing something with the Virgin Islands as well? Of course, him and Epstein are very similar in that they both seem like they were trying to control things, especially media. Robert Maxwell had a whole ton of media companies that he had invested in. Robert Maxwell would invest in these media companies in order to gain a controlling share, right? So that he could be an authority within these companies' boards and basically get them to do what he wants. He did this in Israel in the last 3 years of his life. He invested in like a printing technology company. He invested in a media outlet over there and one other company, and it looked like he was setting himself up to be quite influential, not just in media in Israel and some of these other countries like the US and the UK, but more specifically even like the competitive advantage technology that was important for printing presses back in the 90s. So him being mentioned in this Virgin Islands document is kind of weird. We have here, it says, Robert Maxwell's tumultuous career and death are well publicized. That's correct. He fell off his boat, supposedly had a heart attack. My personal opinion is that one of his dozen crew members on his boat did something to him, because I just don't see how, some guy falls off the boat and nobody ever notices. But I go into that in my 10-part series that I have. It also says Ghislaine was not involved in any of the resulting investigations and disputes, as she was not involved in Maxwell's business. Okay. So Ghislaine is getting cut out of this now. It almost seems like Robert Maxwell is more relevant to this thing with the Virgin Islands. This is getting kind of weird. Let's keep going down though. Numerous newspaper articles detailing the criminal fraud charges brought against Kevin and Ian Maxwell. Oh, so I didn't actually know he had sons. So that's another interesting thing. Maybe we can look their names up too. As they're mentioned here, we can probably get something. Ghislaine is the daughter of the late. So, okay, that's all his name appears in this document. I just think it's weird. This thing with the Virgin Islands and JP Morgan, of course, this is happening like 2, almost 3 decades after Robert Maxwell's death. Okay, so I don't know why he's even involved in this. Let's go to the next one. Can we possibly find anything? Let's go ahead and search his name again. Okay, this is like the same exact document, I'm pretty sure. His name comes up the same number of times. Yep, same document. Okay. Let's look at the one with Giuffre v. Maxwell. Again, why would Robert Maxwell be coming up in a lawsuit against Ghislaine and Virginia Giuffre, who is, of course, one of the most well-known Epstein's victims? She's the most outspoken. So let's go ahead and search that up. Okay. Looks like this is like an article or something. Yeah, by Neil Sison in Palm Beach, Florida. I don't know which publication this is. The daughter of the late media tycoon. Okay, so they're just referencing him here. That's him, of course. Yeah, that's not anything useful. So let's stay away from some of these irrelevant lawsuits. They seem irrelevant. They kind of seem like, yes, they're definitely irrelevant. Is there anything else? We got something out of Florida. This is probably the Palm Beach Police Department. They seem to have this style. In the previous video, I noticed I pulled one up from the Palm Beach Police Department. It's like this. They scan these documents, and some of them are actually searchable. You know, you can select stuff and kind of search through stuff. It looks like they just have some of the media snippets from the Palm Beach. What is it? The Palm Beach Times? Palm Beach Post. Okay, yeah, Palm Beach Post. What they're doing with all of this, it looks like the police were using the Palm Beach Post as evidence in a trial, or in Epstein's 2007 conviction, where he got that super corrupt NPA deal. I don't know if there's anything here. Wow, that looks fucking scary. Look at that. Woo. Let's just look his name up. Let's see if we can actually search this document. Looks like we can. Ghislaine Maxwell, 41, the daughter of late disgraced media baron Robert Maxwell, as simply his best friend. He says she is not on his payroll, but she seems to organize much of his life. Right, okay. So they're just talking about how Ghislaine was a big part of Epstein's life. So we're going to go ahead and back out of this document. There's a lot of pages here. We're going to skip through all of the Virgin Islands, the Ghislaine v. Giuffre. That's what all of this is. California Holdings, LLC. What is this? Okay, so where does his name come up here? 12 times. Still just referencing. And I'm going to move on soon, just so you guys know. If nothing's coming up, we're going to move on soon. Because again, this is a little more fringe. Most of these documents are just referencing him as the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. We have this, the FBI, Epstein Part 3. Wow, what the fuck is this? Does anyone know what this is? This is really weird. Apparently his name is in here. It's a 100-page document. Let's go ahead and search. Robert, his name comes up 11 times. Oh, that's a different Robert. Let's go ahead and hit Maxwell. Yep, again, just referencing him as the father of Ghislaine. A lengthy profile of the financier in Vanity Fair magazine some years ago reported that Andrew was a guest at a cocktail party thrown by Epstein and Maxwell, packed with young Russian models. Some guests were horrified, said the article's author, Vicky Ward. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on. You can go ahead and look through a lot of this stuff yourself. I think most of it's going to be kind of a nothing burger on him, honestly. He just seems to be referenced a lot as Ghislaine's father. Next up on the list, Zorro Ranch with 2 R's. Zorro with 2 R's. Okay, quite a bit of stuff here. Let's go ahead and put in the full thing. Zorro Ranch. Yep. And this was the property. So this was a very weird property, right? When it comes to like Bill Richardson, who was the governor of New Mexico, he was accused, of course, by Virginia Giuffre. I would assume that that took place here or someplace nearby, but this was like an intermediate point for that trafficking operation at some point. And also, this is like the super weird thing. Epstein wanted to make, he had this idea in his head. I want to make a superior lineage of the human race that's like seeded with his DNA. He wanted to make like a superior lineage of human beings seeded with his DNA. I guess he was going to impregnate a whole bunch of women, and this is where he was going to keep them. He was going to keep them here at Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. And this is a fairly large property, right? This is a pretty large property. Here it shows the one in New York. Okay, so we're getting pictures of all of them. Palm Beach property. So yeah, look at this thing. Look at the size of this ranch. This thing is fucking huge. You got cars here. This is about the size of a tennis court. And then almost like an asylum style building. Super creepy in my mind. When I look at this building, it's kind of like a shape like a U. It's like a square without one side. I don't know who makes buildings like this. And you can see that there's like even like a little courtyard there with some kind of big wooden gate. I don't know, man. Like really weird stuff. And then you have like this crop circle in the background over here too. Totally bizarre, right? Just like all of his properties. I'm sure maybe if you've been watching, you've seen some of the pictures coming out of his island. Super weird. Now, this is what I don't understand. We get a picture of a few properties, and then these images are entirely redacted. Why? So what are they showing? They go from his properties now to some entirely redacted. I would assume these are also pictures of property. That would just seem to follow suit. They're about the same size and aspect ratio and everything. So wonder what's happening there. We have Interlochen Arts Camp, entirely redacted, 1994. Okay. Don't know what this is. Gift of $200 for a new scholarship lodge. Okay. So this is something Epstein would do. This is basically him donating money. Epstein did this as a way to get his little greasy sausage fingers into anything he wanted to, such as the carbine stuff, right? He wants people helping him set up his blackmail operation in the New York townhouse. He wants a state-of-the-art blackmail system. He goes through Ehud Barak, invests $1 million. They set up an office 2 miles away in New York City, and suddenly he's got like the craziest blackmail operation ever. That's just what Epstein did. He invested in people and in businesses that he wanted something from, obviously. So, yeah, we were looking at Zorro Ranch here, and I'm not sure if that's the only place that this comes into view here. It's just in the first few pages. This is a 28-page document. Let's go ahead and search for it and just see if it comes up anywhere else. It does not. Okay. So why don't we just skim through this? I like to do this too, even though this seems like an irrelevant thing. They're just pointing out like specific instances, which in the flight logs, which we'll get to actually. There's one flight in particular that I have coming up here that I really want to look up, see if I can find anything on. But I also just like to look through some of this stuff just to see if there's anything that really sticks out. April 22nd, 2016 deposition. I believe this is Virginia Giuffre. So this name right here, I think that's the year that Virginia sued Ghislaine Maxwell civilly. Yep, Mr. Pagliuca, that's the defense attorney, I think, for the victims, the Jane Does. I think Menninger was the attorney for Ghislaine Maxwell. All right, let's back out of this one. Let's take a look at maybe just a couple more here. It's interesting that I wasn't expecting it to pop up in this many documents. This is actually a lot. Of course, most documents, it seems like for most searches, are Giuffre v. Maxwell or United States v. Maxwell. I haven't actually seen anything yet from any kind of documentation pertaining to Epstein's 2019 arrest, right? I think that would be really interesting. We want prison records. We want visitor logs. We want transcripts from interviews from that. But we haven't really seen any of that. Another one I like to look for here are these Doe v. Epsteins. So these are going to be just random people or random accusers. Just different accusers that have accused Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell of abuse. And therefore, you usually get a little bit more novelty from that. So looking through this, let's go ahead and look at the Zorro Ranch, where that comes up in here. So, okay, looks like we see Brad Edwards here. He was defense attorney for many of the victims since I think very early on. I think he was even involved. Yeah, Brad Edwards is a great lawyer. He was involved in the 2007 NPA agreement. Fighting against it. He was one of the attorneys that basically got shafted, and he actually wrote a book. So if you really want to read into just how egregious the non-prosecution agreement was, you can read Brad Edwards' book. But he says, why don't you describe it in your words what this ranch that we are talking about looks like? And I've heard it referred to as the Zorro Ranch. Have you heard that? Whoever's answering says, yes, I've heard that. He says, that's the ranch we're all familiar with. We're talking about wait, what? We're talking about where the runway is and everything else. Yes. Describe it in your own words, the landscaping of this ranch. What do we have on it? There is a house up on the hill, a large house. Okay, so that's like that U-shaped house that we saw, of course. So we'll scroll down here. She's just describing the property. Oh, wow. It could be up to 40,000 square feet. Just insane, right? Like the kind of money. Just think about like, holy shit. That's insane. He says, okay, and what is that primarily used for? He's talking about the bunkhouse on the property. And whoever this is saying, for the people that work on the ranch, they reside there. It's also a place where anybody that traveled on the airplane would stay. It's kind of like, a hotel room. Okay. And that's important to remember. When we talk about Epstein's money, we're not just looking at what did he pay for this, what did he pay for that. The upkeep on some of this stuff, like the Lolita Express, $10,000 per flight hour. His properties where he had people working for him. He had she's describing it as these hotel rooms. He had tons of money flowing through. I don't know if he was quite at the status of billionaire, but he definitely had a lot of money and a lot more money on the way coming through. This is why he needed people like Leon Black to give him, $170 million. Let's see if we can pull out anything else. He says, okay, and do you believe Jeffrey Epstein and or a corporation owned or controlled by him to be the sole owner of that ranch? She says, I don't know. Have you ever talked to Jeffrey Epstein about who owns that ranch? No. Do you know of anybody else who may own that ranch? No. This is likely a victim. She probably has no idea of what's going on behind the scenes with Jeffrey Epstein's, ownership of this place or how he came to acquire it. She just wouldn't know. He also asks her, other than the pool heater in 1995, have you ever received any other gifts on top of the compensation from Mr. Epstein? Okay, so whoever this is, they received a pool heater. They're a homeowner, so probably not a teenage girl, I would ascertain. I could go up and look for their name, but it takes a long time. These documents are just not very well structured for people like me, like laymen who aren't, don't have a lot of legal expertise in reading these documents. So I just kind of go off of context. If we could just keep going down here, what else is going on? He says, okay, and did you have a conversation with him that led to him giving you or gifting you 40 acres of land? Okay. So who actually I think this is? I think this is one of Epstein's co-conspirators. We're actually going to be talking a little bit about them in the next point. Because whoever this is, they're getting a lot of gifts from Epstein. I'm going to go up and just search real quick. We're just going to see. Can we find out who this is? Because now I'm really interested. I think this is one of his co-conspirators, of course, that was given complete and utter immunity after the 2007 non-prosecution agreement deal, which, that never should have happened. Oh, okay. All right. So we got Larry Vizowski here. Okay. I don't know if I missed a name or if this is all his testimony, but this is Epstein's pilot, one of Epstein's pilots. He has another one. But this guy, he is a known liar. I caught him on at least one lie. It's in my 10-part series. I forget exactly what he was lying about, but he's not a truthful guy. He lied about a whole bunch of stuff. And apparently, it looks like Larry Vizowski here was going to receive... Well, he did receive a pool heater, but maybe was going to receive like 40 acres of land. And that's important to know because when we think about how was Epstein basically getting all these people around him to engage in this horrible, heinous behavior, and it's Occam's razor. he was giving them shit. He was giving them tons of money. We know that the Cohen's conspirators, these women, I would put him in the bucket too now. Larry Vazowski, I think we would include him as a co-conspirator. I think this guy knew. I think he absolutely knew what Epstein was doing. And you can see on the flight logs that he put too. He would put down, instead of people's names, in many instances, Larry Vazowski would simply write down female 1, female 2, really anonymizing these passengers on his plane, which I presume now that I know that he's a liar, to be underage women. So, Larry, you're a piece of shit. Nobody can trust you. And in Larry's case, he was getting 40 acres. We know that Leslie Groff, she was given like a luxury vehicle, okay? She was actually given, I forget which brand it was, like a Lexus or something, but she was given a luxury vehicle as a part of maternity leave 1 year. Jeffrey Epstein gave her like 50 grand and this vehicle as a part of like a maternity compensation package, as well as hiring a nanny for her. So these people were being enriched. Larry Vazowski and these other women were being enriched. Let's just look at one more thing here before we move on. He says, Brad says, and is that something that you did not have to pay for? So are we looking at another gift maybe? He says, no, it's just something I drive. I mean, it's not entitled to me or anything like that. It's just a car that I drive. What? Brad Edwards says, all right, you've worked for him for 18 years. I don't even know how long the Hummer would last, but presumably that's not the car you've had over the entire 18 years. Have you always had a company car? And Larry says, no. So Brad Edwards says, when did you get the Hummer? Probably 3 years ago. Do any other members of Epstein's piloting team have company cars? No. Only you? Yes. Okay. So Larry Vazowski, this is big. We just discovered he was getting tons of gifts, and he was lying for Epstein. So he was given a pool heater, probably for the pool at his home. They were in talks of giving Larry 40 acres of property, and now we find out that at some point, Larry acquired a Hummer. That's great. You're a great guy, Larry. Real great guy. That's real great. And now they're talking about a Mercedes. Is that something that was also a gift from Mr. Epstein? Larry says no. Well, I don't trust Larry. What type of Mercedes is that? An ML 430, 10 years old. I don't know how much that's worth or anything. All right. So yeah, very corrupt. And I presume Larry was the pilot flying Epstein to Zorro Ranch. Okay, so he could do all his creepy shit, including impregnating a bunch of women to create a superior lineage of human beings. Good job, Larry. Okay, let's move on to the next subject here. There's a company. They actually have YouTube videos. You can still find them. They were posted in 2011. It's called Aviloop. This is how it's spelled, Aviloop. And this company, if you look up, their website's still active for some reason. What you will find is a website that is, it's just a homepage. They say they offer all these services. None of the links work. You can't click on anything. And they basically just tell you to get in touch with them via, I believe, LinkedIn. And when you go on YouTube and you search up Aviloop videos, you see these young women dressed in retro flight attendant uniforms, and they are being very weird. They're referring to the viewer as like a captain and something about a big blue button, and it's just really odd. You can look at that for yourself. But this company was actually founded by Nadia Marchenkova, which is one of the women who were listed in the NPA as a co-conspirator. And she is actually missing, just flat out missing, as of January last year. So let's go ahead and see if we find anything. Oh, okay. So we have 3 mentions of Aviloop here. Let's take a look. Exhibit 1, United States District Court, which I want to make a comment too real quick. The United States District Court is terrible. In the Epstein story, they come up at least twice, and they have like straight up said, we're never charging the co-conspirators. We have no plan to do anything with that. This court is horrible. They're really bad when it comes to the Epstein story. Let's go ahead and let's punch in Aviloop again. Let's see where that comes up. Okay, so this is listed under what? Why are they listing all these companies? Why are they listing all these companies? That's a lot of companies. Oh, and just straight up people. Johanna Schoberg, she gave testimony at one point talking about what was going on. She mentioned, okay, interesting point about Johanna Schoberg. She testified that she had spoken to a woman from the news outlet called the Daily Mail, that she had spoken to this woman named Wendy Lay. Now, she mentioned another person too, but Wendy Lay died 11 days after Johanna Schoberg gave her testimony. Johanna also mentioned another guy by the name of John Connolly, who was a prior detective who had turned into a investigative journalist, and he died as well. And I could not find any real cause of death for him either. But he wrote a very lengthy expose along with like one or two other people about Jeffrey Epstein. And John Connolly died basically at the same exact time where Prince Andrew was being sued out the ass by Virginia Giuffre, and at the same time where Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal trial was going. So you have this huge cluster. Oh, and Jean-Luc Brunel. He died like a month later. So it's insane. I recommend my 10-part series. I'm still releasing it, but yeah. I don't know. She may have killed Wendy Lay with her testimony, it seems. 11 days later, and Wendy, of course, another balcony jumper, guys. Another balcony jumper. Despite people jumping out of high spots and balconies and stuff like that is like, what is it? It's like 5% of people do that. Unless you know Epstein, and then it's like, it's a much higher percentage. Anyways, long tangent. Aviloop, right. So let's go ahead and look at Nadia Marcinkova. Let's see where she comes up. Okay. What is this? Attachment A, Epstein-related individual. Okay, so they're defining Epstein-related individuals here. Of course, they list a bunch of them. Adriana Ross, she's another co-conspirator. Bella Klein, Kathy Alexander, Clinton Wonderly, Daphne Wallace, Darren Indyke. That's one of the guys currently responsible for managing Epstein's estate. I believe he's the attorney. There's like an attorney, and then there's like another guy that does something else. I forget what, but he's one of them. David Rogers. Oh, Eva. There we go. Eva Dubin. The Dubins, right? Glenn and Eva Dubin seem to keep popping up more and more and more. Of course, I discussed in the prior video, Eva dated Epstein in the 80s. We found out that it was like 1983 that they started. As late as 1991, they were dating on and off, like 3 years before Eva married Glenn. And then, of course, Glenn is one of these guys with accusations. I call him in my 10-part series, I call him like the quintessential implicated individual when it comes to Epstein, because he's got the accusation, he's got the instance of potential blackmail, and he's a billionaire, right? He's a hedge fund guy. So Glenn Dubin is right here. He is like the quintessential accusee in the Epstein world. Harry Beller, Igor Zinoviu. So there was another Igor with a very similar name that was actually Epstein's bodyguard and driver. God, I can't remember if that's actually the same guy, but it might be. We have Jean-Luc Brunel, Juan Alessi. Now that's interesting. Juan Alessi, okay. Yeah, in the prior video, we had a folder from the Palm Beach Police Department with his name on it. So I guess all that information, it was like internet forums. Like somebody was stalking teens on an internet forum. Something about like hot people, my 100 most hot friends or something. It's just weird as fuck. Larry Vysowski, pilot. Leon Black, of course, we know all about him. Leslie Groff, she's like the leader of the co-conspirators. She's the oldest woman involved with Epstein. He's the one he gave that luxury vehicle to, the maternity package, all kinds of stuff. She's a huge piece of shit. She absolutely knew what was going on. She would do most of Epstein's phone calls, scheduling, high up meetings, like very, very high level meetings for Epstein with all these billionaires. Horrible, horrible woman. And of course, she and all these other co-conspirators are riding off into the sunset with all the money that they made through Epstein. So isn't that great? Looks like we have Leslie Wexner, Maria Alessi, maybe she's related to Juan, Miles Alexander, Nadia Marcinkova, of course, and then Sarah Kellen. I want to talk about Sarah Kellen a little bit. So she was the one that is currently trying to sell, I guess, a $6 million luxury apartment in Miami. No one knows how she got it. In fact, her name is actually Sarah Vickers now, Vickers, and it's because she married a NASCAR racer of all people. So just a little interesting tidbit there. She was absolutely involved. Stephen Hoffenberg, super interesting individual. I don't know why he's listed here as an Epstein-related individual. He got involved with Epstein very early in the 90s. They pulled like the biggest Ponzi scheme in history. You may have heard about it. It's the Tower Financial Ponzi scheme. And after the whole thing collapsed, and Epstein, despite being extremely involved, barely escaped by the skin of his teeth. But yeah, Stephen Hoffenberg has said two very interesting things. One, that Epstein has major traction with the U.S. Department of Justice, and that Epstein would often brag about passing what he knew about people onto Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency. Very, very interesting statements from Stephen Hoffenberg. He's dead. He was found in his house deceased. One of the again, nothing with Epstein makes sense, but one of Epstein's victims had actually become like very, very close with Stephen Hoffenberg. Her name is Maria Farmer. Somehow they had gotten in touch at some point after Stephen's incarceration period, and she called the police for a welfare check, and they found Stephen Hoffenberg in his home, supposedly beyond recognition. He was in a really decomposed state. So just a little interesting tangent there. Stephen Scully, don't know who that is, don't know who these people are. So yeah, that's really interesting. It's like a little tour through some of the people, I guess, that are called Epstein-related individuals. They're defining this in this document. But that's the only place where Nadia comes up. So we're gonna back out of this. You just got some lore there. Now we have looks like two different documents from the Giuffre v. Maxwell case. Why Aviloop would come up in that, I could see why potentially if Virginia Giuffre had some stuff to say about it. Let's see if we can find where it's actually mentioned. Okay. So Nadia Marchinkova model.com, Aviloop.com. So these are ways that you could get in touch with Nadia Marchinkova. If any of you want to email her and ask her, where the fuck did you go? We all miss you since January of last year. Feel free to do that. Looks like it's mentioned here, and then that's about it. Okay, we'll just check the last one, and then we'll move on to the next point that I have that's pretty interesting. Let's just go ahead and do a quick search here. Aviloop. And I think, why is Aviloop so interesting, right? It's interesting because this co-conspirator, post-2007, which is when Epstein got caught up in his trial, it looks like almost Epstein had Nadia Marchinkova, or Marchenko, whatever her name is, actually setting up a front for a trafficking operation for him. I am almost certain that Aviloop was another way to not just maybe get women involved or girls, but to actually start marketing, broadening his marketing to more and more people. When you look at the videos on YouTube of these women dressed up in these retro uniforms, they actually seem like they're trying to coax people or specifically pilots into coming in for whatever services that are offered on the website, which they totally didn't do, and get them wrapped up in some sex trafficking shit. I guarantee you that's what they were doing. So let's see here. We have Aviloop mentioned there. There's her email address again. Again, if you want to get in touch. Okay, basically the same document. We're going to move on. So now we're going to look at a very interesting flight log entry. It's January 5th, I believe it was like 1997, where we had Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump, Mark Epstein, which is Epstein's brother, Eva and Glenn Dubin, again, those motherfuckers, they're starting to pop up a lot. Eva and Glenn Dubin, they're going to become big names in the story, I guarantee you. And all of them flew from Palm Beach to New Jersey. So let's look up the date, first of all. Let's just go with, oh my God, my typing is atrocious. January 5th. Let's see what pops up. Okay. Just one. I'm wondering if this is even relevant. What do we have here? Let's just type it in again. Really? Doesn't come up. Well, all right. Kind of a nothing. Well, it's right here. I don't know why it's not coming up. It's like it's not searching. Governor of Virginia Islands from January 1st to January 5th, 2015. This is very likely just completely irrelevant. I don't think this is really this is anything. So we're gonna back out of that. And that's about all I have for that flight. I don't really have any other search terms for that. It's a very interesting flight. I guess we could type in, let's see, Palm Beach to New Jersey. No results. Okay. We'll move on then. That was just an interesting little flight. Of course, you have Epstein, Trump, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's brother Mark, and Eva and Glenn Dubin. Thought that was very interesting. I might revisit that at some point. So now I want to talk about something that was very interesting that happened just prior to Trump's first presidential term, which is that he had a meeting with a couple of Russians. One of them was a Russian attorney, and the other one was actually a Russian intelligence agent. And just prior to that meeting, there was I think he was a senator or a representative, Dana Rohrabacher. You may have heard of him. He went to Russia and he collected what were called critical materials. And he brought them back to the United States. And then when these two Russians went to Trump's tower for the infamous Trump Tower meeting with these Russians, they got into this meeting. These Russians got into this meeting by telling Donald Trump's son that they had compromising information on Hillary Clinton that would help him win the presidential election. But when they actually got into the meeting, turns out they didn't have that. And what they actually wanted to discuss were the critical materials that were given to Dana. So we're going to type in one of their names here. We have, of course, Natalia, very common Russian girl name. And her last name is, let me see if I can try to spell it here. It's very long. Veselnitskaya. I wonder what that means in Russian. And we got nothing coming up, unfortunately. So let's do the other guy's name. His name is Renat Akhmetshin. Metmetshin. Nothing comes up. Okay, unfortunate. Something to revisit. And while we're at it, we may as type in Dana Rohrabacher, which is spelled oddly with like a bunch of H's. Nothing. Okay. We'll have to revisit all that. For the rest of this video then, I think I'm just going to look at some of the details surrounding Epstein's death in the special housing unit at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. I think that's, that's what started this whole thing. It's what started everybody looking into this. So let's take a look at some stuff. I think the first thing that I want to look at is if we could find any kind of visitor logs. So let's look at visitor logs. Okay. Here we have memos and correspondence from, OIG is the Office of the Inspector General. These are good reports. This office did a lot when it came to Epstein's death initially. This is how I found out that one of the guards had rushed over there and basically his murderer, torturer, cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, had essentially sounds like tried to kill him. I think that was the first attempt on Epstein's life. And then we found out later that we couldn't get the camera footage for that incident either. So when it comes to camera footage of Epstein in the special housing unit, it's not just that we didn't get camera footage when Epstein had supposedly killed himself, if he's even dead, but we also couldn't get it in another instance where it sounds like he was attacked by his cellmate. So why don't we go ahead and just see if we can find his cellmate in here. Okay. Nope. Nicholas Tartaglione is his name. He's not in this report. Let's kind of scroll down and see what we can find. I don't know. These reports are kind of they're kind of whatever. Let's see. When Epstein arrived in the cell, inmate 3 recognized him and said he told the day watch operations lieutenant that the day watch operations lieutenant had jammed up inmate 3. Inmate 3 said he knew Epstein had tried to hang himself and had just come from suicide watch. According to inmate 3, the day watch operations lieutenant told inmate 3 not to worry, that Epstein was okay, and that inmate 3 should keep an eye on him. Inmate 3 asked the day watch operations lieutenant if he was supposed to serve as a suicide prevention advocate. That is, an inmate who is assigned to suicide watch area. Inmate 3 said the day watch operations lieutenant laughed and brushed off inmate 3's comment. Okay. I don't know who inmate 3 is. My guess might be Epstein Reyes, who was Epstein's last cellmate. They stuck him in there. I think he was in there for like a very short time period, and he was taken out directly before Epstein was found dead. Oh, this is cool. So we have a few more pictures here of the L tier, I guess is what they call it, in the special housing unit, with a little diagram. So it looks like this image goes here. So Epstein's cell is going to be on the right here. It's either, yeah, it looks like this door right here is Epstein's, the one with the rags outside of it. Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 doors here, which corresponds with the 4 cells in the diagram. That's pretty cool. Okay, we get more. L tier entry door. So this is like another thing, I think. In order to access this tier, maybe at the top of the stairwell, it looks like you may have had to bypass some metal doors here with the slot. So that's an interesting detail that I was not aware of. The door to the cell occupied by Epstein and inmate 3 from July 30th to August 9th. So that was Epstein Reyes. That was Epstein. Epstein was with Epstein, I think, for about a week, but he was moved out on August 9th. They sent him to like the Queens Detention Center or something like that. That guy was a part of a drug trial. He seemed like a okay guy. Didn't seem like he was going to murder nobody, but he's also dead. So I cover him in like section 3 of my the Epstein nuke series that I have. That guy's also dead from what I would call improbable circumstances, but we'll move on here. Okay, view of Epstein's empty cell from the cell door window. Obviously, if you're doing your checks, right, Epstein was supposedly hanging off of this part right here, this ladder. He had supposedly fashioned a noose, which I explain as well in my series. I have some serious problems with a noose, like the edge is hemmed, which means it wasn't cut. Epstein was not cut down from his hanging position, as well as some other issues with the hanging itself. But you can see directly right where Epstein would be hanging. If you had done any of the 16 check-ins that you should have done in an 8-hour period by either of these two guards, if that had happened, they would have seen Epstein hanging. But I think that was the point. I think Epstein dying was the point, so they didn't do that. We have a view of Epstein's cell door from the Special Housing Unit Officers Station. So this is interesting. Okay. This is really interesting because I was convinced that this station, which you can see on the Special Housing Unit video, was out of line of sight of Epstein's cell. So they literally had a line of sight on Epstein's cell door the entire time, and they just could not be bothered to walk over there and check on him. That's insane. I didn't realize this stairwell was so short. It seems like a half staircase, right? Huh, that's interesting. You can see the guards from Epstein's cell door, so he would know what was going on. That's crazy to me. That's really, really crazy to me. That he is just this close to these people, because that's where they're sitting. They're sitting at the officer station. When you're watching the video that they gave us, the one that's missing 3 minutes, he's literally right there, right? Like if that door's open, you can see inside his cell. That's crazy. Let's see if we get anything else. During the evaluation, Epstein stated he had previously been incarcerated 3 months for prostitution. That should be 13 months. And that he was currently charged with sex trafficking. Epstein denied recent or present morbid thoughts and denied passive or active suicidal ideation. Okay, so the Office of the Inspector General also has a report where Epstein actually says that Nicholas Tartaglione, the guy who was convicted on 4 counts of homicide, one of those homicides he did by strangling somebody and torturing them, he said that he tried to kill him. And he said that Nicholas Tartaglione had said things to Epstein that made Epstein feel threatened. And so I just don't understand how we actually get to this idea of suicide at all. I really don't. And when it comes to that Special Housing Unit video, guys, until we get that 3 minutes that's missing, because there is an entire 3 minutes that's missing, and it's obvious that they like doctored the video in Adobe Premiere or some shit, until that happens, I'm just gonna say it. Somebody killed Epstein, right? I think we all know that. Somebody fucking killed Epstein. This idea of suicide is complete bullshit. I think that's about it for this document. This one's 130 pages long. I haven't seen this before. Why don't we just type in tried to commit? Yeah, so tried to hang himself. So Epstein's cellmate told officers Epstein tried to hang himself. He didn't, right? Remember, Epstein's cellmate, the one who did this, not a frame raise, was a convicted quadruple homicide maniac, okay? So he cannot be trusted. I'm wondering if this document has also had some of the other stuff that I've been talking to added into it. So I don't know. We'll back off of this one for now, and we'll try to find some other stuff too. What I really want to know is if there's any more like emails, like correspondence within the prison to other people, like within the prison or to the media, right? So let's see if we can try to find some of that. What will we type in here? Prison. Let's try prison log. Let's try BOP. Okay. Bureau of Prisons. Let's skip through all the OIG memorandum stuff. We just kind of went through that. We have this here, BOP Epstein records, part 3 of 4. It's loading. We'll see what we get. Okay. I know we had a lot of this stuff, and I'm gotta be honest, guys, too. Like, I'm not really convinced. I think most of this stuff on this site is still just stuff that we've had. I think they really did little more than compile it into a library. So don't hold your breath. Don't wait on anything spectacular. Anything that we do get is going to be heavily nuanced, and we'll have to be connected through all kinds of various chains of reasoning and whatnot. But we can read through some of this here. These are prison emails from staff within the prison. And there's actually some good stuff in here. Apparently, Epstein was getting terrible treatment in this prison. So we'll see if we can find any of that in here. We see that on July 23rd, Epstein was placed on suicide watch and received medical evaluation. Epstein received daily psychological evaluations while on suicide watch. Now, that's interesting because it was just like 6 or 7 days later that Epstein was removed. Okay, yeah, Epstein was removed from suicide watch. I should just read. July 29th, Epstein was removed from suicide watch by Psychology Services Department at MCC New York after daily interaction with him according to established procedures. Okay, so I want you guys to think about something for a second. You're in this place that looks like hell. You're being treated like shit. And somehow, you get depressed. What was it that happened, right? According to their story, Epstein is depressed. What is it about that situation that had Epstein become no longer depressed? If that's the official story, what was it about his situation that changed within 6 days that made him no longer depressed? Because as far as I can tell, it was still as terrible as ever. I mean, he was really getting some terrible treatment in there. Not that he didn't deserve it, but it did seem even like more like he was getting especially bad treatment in this facility. So I don't know how they end up taking him off suicide watch. It just conflicts, right, with their story of him being suicidal in a place like that with treatment like that. I don't see how he's off suicide watch after 6 days. But anyways, we do see here he was with that same cellmate, Epstein Reyes, until August 9th. So his roommate just happens to be transferred out. Literally, it's almost the same day, right? It's the same. It goes from August 9th. He's removed. It looks like at 8 a.m. and then it's that night that Epstein dies. So it's just so much stuff. The stars, right? The stars aligned, and Epstein ended up dead. Just between the guards, the cameras, his roommate being moved out, the explanation that his former cellmate didn't try to kill him. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. We see here, let's see, for sake of speed, and I decided for me to pass along to you quickly this very rough draft for the second inquiry pertaining to MCC New York, below for you to review and edit as much as needed, and send back or Nero review. To be sure I'm clear, as background, do you know if AW Skipper Scott and case manager were working at MCC New York before Epstein's death? Okay. Just more minor details, it looks like. Hi there, can you confirm whether case manager, blah, 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 blah. What else do we have? Let's search this document, because this, holy shit, this document, guys, this document is 1,000 pages long. Let's see if we can find Tartaglione in here at all? No. That is insane to me. I don't understand how you have this Bureau of Prisons record that's 1,000 pages long, guys, and no mention of the inmate that very likely tried to kill him. I just don't understand what's going on. Let's look at something else. So, one thing I know is that Epstein had a CPAP machine, and I'm not sure how they would refer to that. So I'm trying to do okay. So it's just like an acronym. So he has a habit of sleep apnea and stated he has not slept for 3 weeks since he. Oh, God damn! Whoever wrote this did a horrible job. What the fuck is this? Since he has been here, since he did not have access to his. What the fuck? Are you guys seeing this? This is our government right here. Look at this. He has a HX of sleep apnea and stated he has not slept for 3 weeks. Is since he has been in here since he died, not have access to his cat. What the fuck is this? But anyways, Epstein, yeah, he's not getting access to the proper care. I informed him that we received a CPAP machine. It will be given to him tonight. He reported other non-medical issues, states that he feels otherwise fine. Okay. So we could continue to go through this document. I mean, it just shows us that Epstein was having some problems. It looks like he was not having like tons and tons of problems. I know it looked like he was pre-diabetic. You can see here, insulin regular, inject regular insulin subcutaneously per sliding scale twice daily. So he was having some kind of like pre-diabetic issues. The CPAP machine, of course, not really a good sign. He's got some health going on. I think Epstein was like 66 at this time, so that's expected to some degree, especially when you're in a high stress situation. Although Epstein did say, he'll be out of here in no time. He did say that to his attorney. Yep, here's 66-year-old male with complaint of right arm numbness for 2 to 3 minutes 3 days ago. Please perform C-spine series, whatever that is. So let's go to another document here by the Bureau of Prisons. Let's try to find another one. That's part 3 of 4. Let's see if we can find another one that's not part 3 of 4. Here we go, part 1 of 4. Federal Bureau of Prisons, everybody. Let's see what they've got to give us now. If it wants to load. These are some big documents, I'm not going to lie. Okay, this is also 1,000 pages, so they're just doing these in 1,000-page chunks. This looks like some emails from Metropolitan Correctional Center staff to who? Who is getting these emails? Because I know I've seen through this stuff. I've looked through this stuff before. The media was actually, hounding on the Metropolitan Correctional Center for reporting. And yeah, you get these giant green chunks. This is all redacted shit right here. So, that's great. Let's see if Tartaglione appears in this one. I'm just telling you guys, no, he doesn't. I don't think. Nope. God damn. It's so annoying, dude. Because that guy was probably the biggest kind of, acknowledgement or indicator that they were trying to kill Epstein. Like, somebody was trying to put Epstein under the jail. But, let's see what we can get in here. Let's see. Jeffrey Epstein is currently housed at MCC New York, not in a local hospital. I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be a whole lot in here. The graph is pretty explosive. A person with knowledge of the investigation said that when the decision was made to remove Mr. Epstein from suicide watch, that was apparently not done, the person said. So, okay, this is the Daily Beast, it looks like, this correspondence. I don't know about them. I know they've had some issues with credibility, but it looks like they're getting into the weeds of Epstein's terrible, terrible care, which nobody really cares that much. Why don't we look up some keywords here? Let's see, hang. Okay. What did he use to hang himself? And I can tell you guys, certainly, we've already had this document for some time. And I am just more and more just starting to feel like, we're getting shafted again. I mean, look at this. This is the same email, like fucking 8 times in a row. Look at this. Why are they? They're like copy pasting this fucking email over and over. Hi, Lee. Appreciate your response and realize you are very busy. 2 questions. 1. Was Epstein found hanging? 2. Was he on suicide watch? Okay, and this is Bloomberg. Lee, hope you're doing well. Can you confirm that Epstein was found hanging? Please give me a call. It doesn't look like they're getting it. Oh, yeah, and then it just cuts off there. That makes sense. We have this official report by Lee Plourde, Public Information Officer, talking to us about Epstein was found dead at 6:30 a.m. on August 10th, 2019. We already know all that. I am getting a little pissed, guys. I'm gonna tell you. I keep looking through shit, and it's nothing new. Like in my series, I've been through most of this, and in the first part, I did find some new stuff, but I'm not finding anything new now. I'm pretty sure we already looked at this document. You put in a search term, and it's like it gives you an individual link for every instance in which that search term comes up in the same document. It's really fucking annoying, and I feel like they do that on purpose. I really do. I don't see how hard it would be to exclude links from going to the same document, but I think they do that just to make it harder. This is interesting. Okay. We have District Court Judge Nathan. So I think this is, I forget who this is, but they were actually fairly involved in shutting down some of the requests for evidence from, I think it was Ghislaine's criminal trial, right? Or you have United States v. Ghislaine Maxwell. This district court judge actually shut down the ability for us to get what I believe is Epstein's black book. She said it was not admissible, and she used some rule to say, yeah, sorry guys, we're not admitting that. That's going to stay out of the court because it's too sensational. There's too many celebrity names in it, and it's going to distract the jury. So, yeah, that judge can go fuck themselves. But I'm wondering what is this document? Because I looked up the Bureau of Prisons, and now we're getting all this shit. This looks like some of the stuff that you file to ensure that you are who you say you are when it comes to being. No. This is just the. What the fuck is this? This is like a court docket that just shows you who's defending who and who's being defended, I guess. This is 304 pages long, so let's just type in some names here, like Virginia. Virginia's not in here. Accused. Okay. Yep. That's not anything. Even when the government is able to prove that an accused is an actual flight risk, pretrial detention generally remains inappropriate. Why? United States v. Barrios. The presumption in favor of bail still applies when the defendant is found to be at risk of flight. Okay. So, I don't know. I'm going to end this video. I think, guys, it's just, I'm not getting anything new at this point. I think I pretty much pulled it all out in that first video. So, yeah, I highly recommend looking through this. You never know what you're going to find, but I really think that most of this stuff is just shit that we've seen, right? It's just shit we've seen already. It's nothing new. So, yeah, I would highly recommend still going through it, though. You never know what you're going to find. Maybe they slipped up and put something in there that they shouldn't have. But it's going to take forever to actually get to any of it. So, yeah, I'll leave it there. See you guys.